Keep it smart each every day. Never doubt along the way. God gave us a merry heart that has to cheer along the way. Through His love and mercy, promises we shall proclaim. Let's never doubt the promise that Jesus, He will come again. Read your Bible, pray every day. Share our text along the way. God gave us the word of life, that we from sin be made free. Through Jesus, the Lamb of God, that washes my sins away. Let's never doubt the beauty of keeping in the narrow way. Jesus is the narrow way, leading us to heaven, where life is eternal, and sorrows never we shall see. We shall dwell forever with the Lord God Almighty. Let's keep the faith and never turn to be the saints in waiting.
Greetings everyone, and welcome back to the conversations of entrepreneurship, and we are having these conversations in the context of being Christians. I suppose by now we have built a portfolio of things that we could follow and be able to come to a level where we set up successful ventures, things that are established in their own right, but run and operated by Christians for the glory of God. And the last time we were having a conversation around the specificity of how you actually cite and target people you want to sell to your particular products, and how do you actually establish that link and identify a working solution that will lead to a successful business. One of the things we highlighted is what we call the China syndrome. So you realize that in business, there are a few challenges that people tend to face. And especially as you get sophisticated and you are trying to run proper established businesses, people ask for what they call a business plan. All right. So in a business plan, they are asking you to tell us what you think you will be able to do for whom and how big, is this base of people that you can sell to the product that you want to sell. So we ask the question, how do you establish, the potential that your business possesses? And the world has developed, and one of the things that's very easy to do in our generation is to be able to just run spreadsheets. So someone sits on a computer, they punch in numbers and they start guessing, if I sell to 1,000 people, I'll make $200 profit. If I sell to 10,000, I'll make 1,800 as profit. So these are things that people can easily just go through, and they come up with a certain number, and they use that as a basis for making decisions. Is it wrong in the way that you are thinking? Not necessarily, because what you want to do is you also want to be able to understand what's the potential. Okay, in entrepreneurship and business balance, we call that the total addressable market size. All right, how big is the market that you can attend to? But you don't dream of that market on a computer. All right, you don't engage a consultant who says, I want a business plan, and they develop a business plan for you. They give you things and without understanding. What you need to appreciate is there is actually quite a lot of work that goes into understanding how you define the potential market that you want to sell to. So the China syndrome says, people sit down and they say, oh, okay, China has got 1 billion people, okay, and what I want to do is I think I'm going to sell to China. So last time we said toothbrushes, and then you say, okay, I want to manufacture 3.9 million toothbrushes and sell them to the Chinese market. I'll make at $1 each, I'll make 3.9 million. And this is the thinking that sometimes people go through when they are establishing business. But you realize that it's not always the case, because there are many other conditions that are necessary and sufficient for that to be true. One of the things that needs to be true for you to be able to do that, you are assuming that there is no one else who makes toothbrushes to sell to China. Number two, you are also assuming that you are the only one who is good at making toothbrushes such that the Chinese people will be prepared to pay that amount of money. So you realize that that way of thinking tends to draw many people away. But what are we advocating for? We are advocating for an understanding of the underlying clients, customers. Understand them. And you realize we are in that segment where we are saying, who is your customer? Because at the end of the day, we want to be able to identify and personify them, and then ultimately point to them and say, if I'm coming up with a product, my product is meant to save a 40-year-old male, okay, who is a professional and has this level of education, has these kinds of tastes and preferences. It sounds very academic if you think about it, but you realize that what we learned from the Word of God, that's the diligence we are after. You need to be diligent. You need to actually understand things. And the other reason why maybe most businesses are not successful is because we lack the diligence and the focus. We are not willing to apply ourselves to understand circumstances. And you find that most of the times you get other businesses that come into your space, quickly run you over, push you out of the way, take over everything. This has been one of the biggest challenges, even with developing economies and countries like ours, Zimbabwe. People end up preferring foreign products to local products. What is the issue? Or foreign service providers to local service providers. It's this issue of focus, diligence. Sometimes these people that come and find themselves in our own space apply themselves more. They exert themselves to a level where they study us and they understand us. I had an interesting discovery. If you open the website for EcoBank, that bank, and you go to Zimbabwe, they actually have got information about Zimbabwe. They know the population of Zimbabwe. They know how many of us are Christians, okay, and how many of us are practice African traditional religion. They have these fine details, the finer details of who we are as a people. And I'm looking at these people. EcoBank is a Ghanaian business. They come out of Ghana and they come here, they establish themselves. I even went through Zimbabwean businesses and their websites. They don't have that level of information that you find in some of these spaces. So it is that ability to apply ourselves, to be diligent, that man who is diligent, that God said will stand before kings, that these other businesses possess that we lack. And most of the times we end up just summarizing certain things and making decisions on the basis of the absence of a proper understanding of what it is that we intend to do. So you realize that when you are having the conversation of who your customer is, first things first is you want to know, who do I want to sell to? So let's ask a question. So maybe you say to yourself, I want to get into the education sector, all right? I want to make sure that, I am someone who serves the education sector, okay? So what do you want to do in education, all right? So someone might say, I want to create an online school. You see this challenge that we are having in Zimbabwe at the moment. So someone says, I want to create an online school, but I want it to be in the form of a network for high school teachers and parents to communicate with their teachers, of the teachers of their children and how things are going. Okay, it's broad. Okay, that's what you want to do. But you realize that the challenge you are doing here is you are actually locking yourself up in a particular channel. You just want something that's specific, succinct, short, but straight to the point. An idea like, I want to improve education using technology could be a different conversation to being specific and say, I want to create. Because you get there and you realize that maybe the social networking thing is not working. But if your thinking is, your interest is in education, you have identified the interest, isn't it? What is the challenge in education? Technology is not being used enough, such that if we have challenges like what happened, there was COVID, isn't it? So disruption has come. And who is able to survive? These are the kinds of institutions that have that ability. So if your passion is education, and you realize that within education, the use of technology itself is very minimal, then you could start building a business around that. And you realize that this whole idea of just scanning around for opportunities and you are trying to implement an understanding of a certain way tends to leave you in places that sometimes people would say they border on insanity. So you don't stop yourself as you are dreaming about what you want to do and who you want to do it for. Even the crazy ideas, entertain them. Because this is actually how the creativity that God has given us works. Because you want to explore all the possible opportunities. Who is likely to benefit from what it is that you want to do as a business? And who would likely benefit the most? So you realize where value is perceived to be highest, that's where you tend to be able to capture more of it for yourself as a business. So that value creation ability, you need to identify what is valuable to the people that I want to serve, to this market that I'm looking at. And you realize that over the years, this is how businesses have themselves been established. So you want to be able to separate, establish, who do you want to serve and why you want to serve them. So if don't allow your market to be too big, the people that you want to serve, neither also allow it to be too small. So you realize that this is an iterative process. So you could say to yourself, I want to serve the education sector. I want to be able to serve schools or people who consume this service using technology. Then the question you're asking is, who exactly needs to use technology within education? You see now, so it's no longer just education, technology within education. You are saying, who exactly needs to use technology in education? So education is a very broad area. If you were to, I'm just trying to zero in on one area here. So education itself has got primary school education, high school education, and then you have university education. These are all the areas that you can serve. So if you just say, I want to bring technology to education, sometimes you might miss the point because the nuances of these different segments of the market that consume education services are different. So what a primary school teacher needs is different from what a high school setup needs, which is different from what a university setup needs. So you actually need to be very specific. So that's what we were saying. You need this specificity to say to yourself, I'm going to deliver a product or a service. I'm targeting the education sector. Good enough. Who within the education sector? I'm targeting primary schools. Who within primary schools? Because primary school itself is an ecosystem. Okay? So their parents, their children, their teachers. So you realize that businesses themselves are built on this understanding, the finer detail understanding of things, where you are saying, okay, I want to be able to offer a service or product that's consumed by the children, all right, within the primary school setup. So you realize this is how people end up selling things to your kids, and you are just the one who pays. But their target market is very clear. They impress the children, the parent pays. So there's what we call the decision-making unit, who is the actual person who outlays the money, and the consumer themselves, the end consumer. So this way of thinking then is what is also the basis of building businesses. Be thorough to that level. Go to that, right to that extent where you are saying, I want to sell a particular product, but the person I want to sell this product to is a primary school teacher who teaches art. Because at that level, you will be able, because you realize that products themselves are developed around a persona, all right? So, and services, you identify who is the person, what do they like, what do they prefer, so those things then give you an understanding. And if you realize all the products that you consume, that's how also they are wired, okay? They are tailored for you as an individual with certain characteristics, tastes, and preferences. And ultimately, when you consume that product, you are responding to the understanding that whoever developed the product or service had when they came up with it for you to be able to consume. So as we continue going in this journey, we then want to be able to finalize this conversation around who actually is your consumer. And if you have a consumer, then what can you do for them? That's the next conversation that we are going to be having. What can you do for them? Because you are trying to build a business, you see. You start with who the customer is. That thorough understanding of the customer informs the processes that you go through when you are setting up a business, developing products, services, then ultimately be able to monetize whatever it is that you want to bring to the market in the form of a product or a service. So as we continue, we hope that these skills that we are acquiring and the understanding that we are getting will help us become better entrepreneurs, and above all, realize that this is a God-driven process. God is at the center of it. As we understand things, there is no better source of knowledge than God himself, who opens up things for us and gives us an understanding that ultimately will bring that glory and honor to him. So tune in next time as we continue these conversations. And as always, we are happy to take the feedback. We hope we'll be able to integrate it and respond to whatever it is that you are looking for as answers in this entrepreneurial journey that you are on. God bless you.
I'll see sometimes many, and of times my feet grow weary, till it seems I almost stumble, then fall, but the tender hand that leads me is the hand that keeps me steady, and by faith I know I'll make it after all this life is over, and our burdens have been lifted, as we stand upon the mountain top, so tall, mountain top, looking over in the city that the Savior is preparing, gives me faith that I can make it after all, By myself I cannot make it, but I know He's there to help calling, I will call, I will call. Just keep trusting, keep on believing. Other words I hear him whisper. Just a few more days to labor. After all, this life is over, and our burdens have been lifted, as we stand upon the mountain top, so tall, mountain top, looking over in the city that the Savior is preparing. Gives me faith that I can make it after all, after all. Apocino famba muizira baba imiranyi torona se ano muterera, vasinzira, kakata Jesu vasikuterera, kuterera, vasinzira, kakata Jesu vasikuterera. Asihationi kufara kwerudo, dakaraje setino mupa, gekutiano rarerano, kuna ivo ano simbira, kutere vasinzira,